got to use my costume history books for this and I'm so excited. So I've been seeing crochet corset tops becoming pretty popular online. Why do I sound like I'm 80 when I say online? The Ethernet. And my immediate thought was, but what if it was historically accurate? Ish. 18th century corsets, often called stays, are so detailed and have such a good silhouette that I thought they'd be the perfect style to try this with. Before we get started, I am going to give an incredibly brief breakdown of 18th century stays, so if you don't care or you already know, just skip through the next minute or so. I'm just giving a quick breakdown. Classic stays for most of the century contained a wider front and narrower back and detached or at least partially detached straps. They were usually boned with whalebones and contained tabs at the bottom to leave room for the hips. Stays could be incredibly simple or incredibly detailed. They could be purposefully meant to be shown with the outfit and could even include sleeves, at least according to the Taschen book. I don't know why it's not just considered a boned bodice at this point, but that's research for another day. The use of stays at the time were to, oh, I'm on low battery. We're just gonna keep going. Support the chest, straighten the posture, and give the classic conical shape of the time. It wasn't really meant to make your waist smaller. It was meant to give that shape that they wanted with the combination of wider hips, usually achieved with many petticoats, a bum pad, hip pad, and panniers, or panniers, depending on your status, event, or time of the century. Sorry, short break in the middle of my intro. My camera decided to tell me it was fine, and then the second I started filming, decided to tell me it was actively dying. So had to go charge my camera. Now, my corset top is more inspired by these stays than anything, mostly because it's going to be constructed out of something that stays or corsets would never be constructed out of. There'll be some construction things that just aren't going to be accurate, aka no boning, which actually would kind of make it more like a, what is it called, a pair of jumps? But anyway, some things are definitely going to change, but I'm going to try my best to keep it as historically accurate as I can / want to. As a side note, I have seen that Engineering Knits has found a knitted corset before in their research. I don't know if that means like corset cover or an actual corset. That's research for me to do on another day, not today. But I just wanted to kind of put that out there as an interesting fact before we get started. Well, with all that out of the way, let me show you what I did.
Hi, I'd like to return my brain for a full refund, please. I was so certain that I'd already said this at some point in my video that I didn't even think to include it in my intro. As far as patterns go, I originally wasn't going to use one. That's kind of my MO. I like the challenge, blah, 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 blah. But I quickly realized that my brain was too small for that. So I ended up purchasing a pattern, but it's a sewing pattern, not a crochet pattern, which was actually really interesting to use that as my basic outline for my crochet. Anyway, now we can go back to the video.
Okay, we're on the floor. You'll see why in a second. I wanted to get as accurate of a pattern as possible. So I found this one. It's American Duchess with Simplicity, and it has Abby Cox on the front, so I don't think I could go wrong with this one. So before I take it all out, because it looks nice and pretty all together right now, let me talk about, I think it's 4 things that I want to change about this pattern. 1, I want to shorten it, like maybe 3 to 4 inches to where it kind of rests at the natural waist. That makes it look more like a late 18th century pair of stays. Did I say corset earlier already? The look I'm going for is more 1780s, I believe. I want to bring like the top of the chest piece, if you can see that right here, it kind of connects to the shoulder straps. I'm gonna try to bring those in just a little bit just because I think I would like the look of that better. There's no historical reason behind that. I just want it to look that way. We'll see how possible that is. 3, I'm going to create a center front opening. There's only a center back opening on this one. What's the last thing? There was 4, and I'm not going to remember it. So maybe it was either just 3 things or I'm not remembering my 3rd one. So, oh my gosh, my battery's dying. Okay, I'll come back when I start marking what pieces I have.
I marked out the seam allowance since I wasn't going to be needing that, as well as pinning 3 inches out of the center to make it shorter. It ended up looking too short, so I took 2 inches out instead.
So, anyone that has ever sewn or used a pattern or made a pattern before, look away. You don't want to see this. It's going to be grotesque for you. These are them. I just really roughly cut them out because I figured out that if I ever wanted to do this on like my chair or my bed, I probably needed to not have the huge thing down on the floor. It would make me have to stay on the floor, and I don't think my back can take that. 3 inches looked like too much, so I cut it down to being 2 inches shorter, and I think that looks a little better. So now we can finally get to crocheting.
I started with the side back pieces because they didn't have any lacings to worry about and they were the easiest pieces to figure out. With each piece, it was really an experiment of doing a few rows, increasing or decreasing, seeing if it relatively matched the pattern piece, and then usually taking that out and starting again, making the needed changes. I have to say, even though it took a bit of time, I really enjoyed experimenting with these pieces. I think it just shows how versatile crocheting can be and all the cool shapes you can make with it. I also crocheted extra side pieces because I was overthinking and worried that since I was making this unboned and out of unstructured fibers, it might not fit the way I wanted it to. I did not end up needing them. Sometimes overthinking gets the best of me. Then I basically crocheted facings for the eyelets to make sure that they were super strong and attached those. And I finally had 2 of every pattern piece as well as the extra side pieces I'd made.
Okay, so all of these pieces are done. Now it is time to connect them. I have some leftover pink thread, which looks like, hold on. Why do I never grab these things before I start filming? It looks like this. I thought it would be a nice contrast to the red, first of all. Second of all, I think this is a nice way to kind of fake or emulate boning on the seams. And I'm going to do, I think, a slip stitch on the right side of each of these pieces so that it shows. So what is next is putting these pieces together. If I need to add another piece, which I'm wondering if I might, or maybe if it's too big, maybe it's perfect, who knows? And then I have to make the shoulder straps, and then I have to make the lacings. So those are my next 3 steps. I've still got a lot of work to do. Hello. So, it hasn't been a long time since the last time I filmed, but a lot has been done. Yesterday, in fact, I didn't feel like filming at all because I was a disgusting gremlin in desperate need of a shower, so I just didn't feel like filming any part of my body. That was the day I ended up getting a lot done. So I went ahead and tried it on last night, and I'm glad I did because it ended up being way too big. I didn't need the extra piece that I made myself. It fits perfectly without it. I think I was just psyching myself out when I was looking at the pieces and going, oh my gosh, those look so small. So last night I was intending to just take like big chunks of that extra piece out, but I thought that was so much work. So I just ended up taking them out and they work perfectly. Might not be able to tell super well. I actually might have to turn you down words just a little so you can see it. It's probably not super clear to anyone who's not me because you can barely see anything right now. So at center back, I put some safety pins just to put it together, and it's tight, but it stays. It's not boned or anything, but you know, They do fit. It can close. I'm probably not showing you to the best of my ability right now because I don't have a mirror in front of me, so apologies. But just trust me, it does fit. I'm happy. I'm very happy with the way this is going so far. I think it looks very cool. So next steps, I am going to do that, what I talked about earlier, which is I've been playing around and nothing's been successful so far. So that's the goal today, is to keep working on that and try to find a stitch that I like to go down each one of these seams to kind of emulate boning. So we'll see. That's my goal. That's what I want to happen. All right. Let's keep going.
I just couldn't find a way that I liked the pink yarn, so I changed course and added a velvet trim instead, which I really ended up liking. The last step was to make the straps. I also wanted to make sure these were super strong, like the lacings, so I doubled them up and stitched them together. And now it's time to see the finished product.
So I am very happy with the way that this piece came out, very happy. There's just a couple of things, one in particular. I wish I wouldn't have shortened it any. I think I wasn't taking into account how crocheted and knitted fabrics tend to stretch when it's fitted. And so what happens is it stretches across the width of my waist. And to do that, it shortens it even more than what I wanted it to. Now, it ended up being okay. Like, it kind of just hits the top of my jeans. I kind of wish it would just be a little longer. I did pick a yarn that I thought I'd heard didn't stretch so much. This is bamboo. But it still kind of stretches. So maybe I'll have to do some research on what kinds of yarns and fibers don't tend to stretch so much. I do still love this project though. I love the red and black together, and I love the velvet, the little accessorizing on here. Actually, because the ribbon doesn't stretch, it does a good job of kind of keeping, it's almost like fake, much more comfortable boning. It doesn't quite like keep me incredibly structured underneath, but it does keep the piece from like scrunching up and becoming even shorter. So that's nice, little tip. I also kind of just like the velvet through the front and the back. Lacings as well. I do wish that the tabbies would kind of sit a little lower or a little flatter. What I think I would have had to do is to do the same thing that I did for the straps, which is to double up all of the pieces, and I want to wear it in warmer weather. So just if you want to try something like this, maybe consider doubling up if you want it to be a little bit more structured, if you want things to lay a little bit flatter. I'm willing to give that up because I want to wear it also when it's warm outside. I would actually love at some point to attempt to do this again with a different kind of yarn and maybe play with the styling a little bit, not shorten the piece at all, leave it as is, but that'll be way in the future, not anytime soon. The main thing is though that this serves its purpose. I wanted to wear this with like a really simple outfit, namely a t-shirt and jeans, because I felt like that would just so easily dress it up, make it look more unique, and it's doing its job. I think it really kind of like funks up, adds some pizzazz. Very fun. I'm surprised actually how much structure it gives me, and it starts to give me that 18th century-ish silhouette. I mean, not quite, it's kind of, it should be more like a cliff, but it's getting there, and it's not made out of structured stuff, there's no boning. That's really cool that it already starts to do that. So that is going to be it for me this week. Thank you so much for sticking around. I hope you had a good time. I had a lot of fun making this. Like and subscribe if you want to see more from me, and I hope to see you back here next time. Bye!